Hey friends, today we got the full deck list of all 4 of the brand new Lord of the Rings Commander pre-constructed decks. So I'm making 4 videos to cover all 4 of the new pre-constructed decks, including the 20 brand new cards in each of the decks, and all the sweet new reprints, which are, some of them are high value reprints, and all of them come with brand new Lord of the Rings art. This video will cover Food and Fellowship. It's an Abzan deck focusing on life gain, tokens, and food. But before we begin, 2 quick reminders. Number 1, if you want to support the channel while buying these sweet new cards, you can head on over to our sponsor, cardkingdom.com/mtggoldfish. And number 2, you can always like and subscribe to help the channel grow and never miss these preview contents and all the other Commander related content that we post every single week. Alright, we kick things off with the face commanders of Food and Fellowship. This is Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit, and Sam, Loyal Attendant. They partner with each other, so you can have Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit, and Sam, Loyal Attendant both in the command zone together. However, you can't just put Frodo with any other commander or Sam with any other commander. They have to be specifically these 2 cards to be in the command zone together. So Frodo, Adventurous Hobbit is Orzhov. It's a legendary creature, halfling scout. It has vigilance, and whenever it attacks, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, the ring tempts you. Then if Frodo is your ring bearer and the ring has tempted you 2 or more times this game, you draw a card. And Sam, Loyal Attendant is a 3 mana 2/4 that says at the beginning of combat on your turn, you create a food token. Activated abilities of foods you control cost 1 less to activate. So we kind of see the main themes of this deck with the face commanders. It has a unique focus on food. I think this is the first precon where at least the face commanders are focusing on food. The 2 main themes of the deck are life gain and tokens, and food kind of merges those 2 ideas together. Foods are artifact tokens that you can sacrifice and activate to gain 3 life. So they tie in the token aspect with the life gain aspect. Sam produces the food tokens and make it easier for you to activate them to gain life, and Frodo then utilizes that life gain to become the ring bearer and draw you cards and get other benefits as well. So I really like these 2 partners. I've went on record before that these 2 are my favorite of the new Lord of the Ring commanders. I don't think they are the strongest commanders of the bunch of the Lord of the Rings set, but I think they are fairly decently powerful, pretty consistent commanders, and I just really like them a whole lot. I've never really had a food deck before. There was like Yomi, which is Golgari, but I really like this emphasis on food with the halflings, with the hobbits of Lord of the Rings, and I dig the flavor, and I'm just really excited to get my hands on this one. This is my favorite deck out of all of them. Now, Frodo and Sam are the face commanders of the deck, but every single pre-constructed deck gives you alternative options for commanders. And in this case, we have another partner pairing. This is Merry, Warden of Isengard, and Pippin, Warden of Isengard. So they're both Isengards, they're best friends, and they can partner with each other. If you have Merry, Warden of Isengard, and Pippin, Warden of Isengard together, you can put them both in the command zone. These 2 utilize food as well, but this time, Merry, instead of drawing cards and being tempted by the ring, is going to give you some more tokens to play with, particularly soldier creature tokens. So Merry, Warden of Isengard, 3 mana 1/4, whenever 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. This ability triggers only once each turn. And then Pippin, Warden of Isengard, is just 2 mana, Golgari, 2/2, and you can pay 1 mana and tap it to create a food token, or you can tap it and sacrifice 4 foods. Other creatures you control get +3/+3 and gain haste until end of turn. Activate only as a sorcery. So while Frodo and Sam are like the ring tempts you and just get in with Frodo for a little bit of damage while drawing cards incrementally, Merry and Pippin instead want to go wide and then eventually buff your token army and just smash face with a nice overrun effect for Pippin. So Pippin, very efficient food token maker, can make tokens on opposing turns, which works really well with Merry, because whenever 1 or more artifacts enter the battlefield under control per turn, you get to create a 1/1 soldier creature token with lifelink. So very easy for you to cast an artifact or makes an artifact on your turn. A little bit harder to make artifact tokens on your opponent's turn, but Pippin can actually do that. If it's on your opponent's turn, you can just pay 1 and create a food token with Pippin, which is another way to trigger Merry. So when Merry's firing off on all cylinders, you're going to be making 1 soldier token per person at the table. So per turn cycle, if there's 4 people at a table, a 4-player free-for-all, you can make up to 4 soldier creature tokens per turn cycle, which is very powerful, but kind of difficult to do. At the very least, it's going to be very easy to make at least 1 token, 1 on your turn, each turn with Mary. And Pippin's like surprisingly very powerful. Making food tokens, okay, whatever. It's not that great on its own, but we can utilize artifact tokens in many different ways, and Mary is one of those ways to do so. And then sacrificing 4 food tokens to give everything +3/+3 in haste is very good. It's an override effect, and the haste is very powerful in general, just because Abzan doesn't really have access to mass haste enablers. That's a very red style effect, and having that access to in Abzan is very powerful in the command zone. So I don't know which pairing is actually stronger for the commander deck. I personally like Frodo and Sam more just because I like Frodo and Sam more. But Merry and Pippin might arguably be even stronger. They have the explosiveness that Frodo and Sam do not have. Frodo and Sam have more of this incremental card advantage engine, but I feel like if left to your own devices, Merry and Pippin is going to be just more overwhelming. So it really depends on the game itself, the variance of the game, and how much interaction your opponents are playing. I think in a low interaction style game, Merry and Pippin might be able to take over games much more easily if there's less board wipes and whatnot, whereas Sam and Frodo are more grindy and incremental value. So those are 4 of the brand new cards from the deck, but we have 16 more brand new cards to talk about, so let's go through them. We have Banquet Guest. This is a creature that has X, a green, and a white for a 0/0 halfling citizen with affinity for food. So it costs 1 less to cast for each food you control. So we're seeing another way to get food payoffs. We have the life gain aspect, cracking them for value, but this one is just like the more foods you have on the battlefield, the more you can put mana into for the Banquet Guest, the higher you can cast it for. It's a 0/0, so affinity for food, trample, and it enters the battlefield with twice X +1/+1 counters on it. So if you pay like 5 mana into Banquet Guest, X equals 3, it comes into battlefield with 6 counters on it. It's a 6/6 trampler. And then you can pay 2 mana, sacrifice a food, Banquet Guest goes indestructible until end of turn. So it's just like, for a food deck, if you can flood the table with food, which food decks are going to be able to do very easily and very consistently, this can easily be like a 10/10 trampler for 2 mana or whatever. And then it's going to be really hard to remove too, because you can give it indestructible at any given time. So this is actually a very powerful threat mid to late game, and can end games for you pretty consistently. Then we've got another legendary creature that can be a commander in its own right. It's Farmer Cotton. It's X, green, and white, so same casting cost for a 1/1 legendary creature, halfling peasant. When it enters the battlefield, create X 1/1 white halfling tokens and X food tokens. So we're seeing just how efficiently this deck can produce tokens. It's all about tokens, all about life gain, and a strong emphasis on food. And Farmer Cotton is just a fantastic way of just dumping a ton of mana to make a lot of creature tokens on a lot of food tokens very efficiently. And next we've got Feasting Hobbit. It's a green creature, 1 and a green, for a 2/2 creature, halfling citizen, and devour food, which is, oh my goodness, so amazing that they brought back Devour. Devour is a very old mechanic from Jund, Shards of Alara block, and it used to be about eating creatures, but this one eats food, and that's like amazing. So what is Devour? It's as this creature enters the battlefield, you may sacrifice any number of foods. This creature enters the battlefield with 3 times that many +1/+1 counters on it. So if you sacrifice 3 foods, it will enter the battlefield with 9 +1/+1 counters on it. It's going to be an 11/11. Creatures with power less than Feasting Hobbit's power can't block it. I just love this. It's another top-end threat, another payoff for the food deck, and the flavor on it is just fantastic. I love it so much. Next, we have another legendary creature. It's Golem, Obsessed Stalker. It's a black creature, 1 and a black, 1/1 legendary creature, halfling horror with Skulk, This creature can't be blocked by creatures with greater power. At the beginning of your end step, each opponent dealt combat damage this game by a creature named Golem, Obsessed Stalker, loses life equal to the amount of life you gain this turn. So this is a life gain payoff for the deck. What you want to be doing with Golem is you want to hit each of your opponents at least once per game. And then for the rest of the game, as long as Golem's on the battlefield, whenever you're gaining life off your food or whatever, your opponents are just going to lose a whole bunch of life, which is going to put them on a clock, definitely, and it's going to make them very, very interested in getting rid of the Golem, and especially just not getting hit by the Golem in the first place. So this is a fantastic payoff. You can gain so much life in a life gain deck, and all you have to do to turn that life gain into your opponent's death is to just hit them with a 1/1 with Skulk, which means it has pseudo evasion already. So that's really nice. You can already see how the new cards are fitting into the themes of make tokens and gain life and make food, and it works really, really well. Next, we have Prize Pig. This is 1 and a green for a 0/3 creature boar. Whenever you gain life, put that many ribbon counters on Prize Pig. Then if there are 3 or more ribbon counters on Prize Pig, remove those counters and untap it. You can tap it to add 1 mana of any color. So it's a mana dork for 2 mana. Not very efficient all by itself, but if you're gaining life, at least 3 or more, which again, food tokens crack for 3 mana at that point, you can immediately untap Prize Pig. So it can easily, in a food deck, in a life gain deck, you can easily be tapping it for 2, 3, or even more mana on a single turn. This card has a really high power ceiling. The power floor is very low. A 2 mana dork is not great, not a great value, but the ceiling of it is astronomically high. I wouldn't be surprised if there were some easy combos with this too, just gaining life and tapping it to make mana and stuff. This card is gas in any life gain deck, and it's going to be really good here. We also have another alternate commander for the deck. We talked about the 2 partner commanders, Frodo and Sam, Merry and Pippin, but we also have Bilbo Birthday Celebrant. So we have a 5th option. Well, really like a 3rd option. This is an Abzan, white, black, green for a 2/3 legendary creature halfling rogue. If you would gain life, you gain that much plus life plus 1 instead. So just your typical life gain support over there. And then it has a very interesting and cool and flavorful activation cost. You can pay 2 white, black, and green. So 5 mana total. Tap it, exile Bilbo, search your library for any number of creature cards, put them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. Activate only if you have 111 or more life. So the flavor behind this is on Bilbo's 111th birthday. He slips on the ring. He vanishes in front of the crowd. It was a big birthday celebration, and he heads on over, I think it was to Rivendell for a couple of years, and then he went to the Undying Lands. He pieced out, basically, of the Shire. After 111 years, he decided to spend his remaining years somewhere else. So I love the flavor of it. I love the fact that he brings everybody to his massive party, because it was like the biggest party ever in the Shire. Power Rise, I don't know if this is so great. Like, if you have Bilbo in the command zone, obviously your opponents are going to make sure you stay under 111, but it is so easy to gain life in Commander that, like, there are even stuff that says, like, double your life total and whatnot, like Beacon of Immortality and whatnot. It's going to be pretty easy to get there. So yeah, and then putting all your creatures on the battlefield, chances are, if like one of those creatures is Craterhoof, you just win the game. So I think this card's pretty solid, and it's going to be a fun one. I love the flavor of it. Then we've got another legendary creature. It's Lobelia, or Lobelia. I don't know how to say her name. Defender of Bagend. It's a black creature, 2 and a black for a 2/2 legendary creature halfling citizen. When Lobelia enters the battlefield, look at the top card of each opponent's library and exile those cards face down. You can tap her, sacrifice an artifact, choose 1. Until end of turn, you may play a card exiled with Lobelia without paying its mana cost. Or you can do each opponent loses 2 life and you gain 2 life. So basically in this deck, it's like sacrifice a food token, and food tokens are abundant. They're all artifact tokens. You can generate card advantage. You steal the top card of people's libraries. You can cast them for free by sacrificing a food token. Or if you don't have any cards to play, or you just want to drain your opponents, you can just drain your opponents. It's fine too. This card gets even better if you have ways of blinking her, balancing her back to hand, reusing that ETB trigger But even without that, I mean, just in a food deck, like there's going to be an abundance of artifacts to sacrifice, and you'll be generating at least 3 cards with her, and then you can start draining afterwards. So this card's solid. And next we have Rapacious Guest. This is another black creature, 2 and a black, 2/2, halfling citizen with menace. Whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, create a food token. Whenever you sacrifice a food, put a +1/+1 counter on Rapacious Guest. And when Rapacious Guest leaves the battlefield, target opponent loses life equal to its power. So this card is fantastic in a food deck because it's both a food generator. It can make 1 food token per opponent that you're hitting with combat damage. So if you are in a 4-player game and you have 3 opponents, if you hit each opponent, you make 3 food per combat. That's pretty solid. And it's a payoff for your food because it becomes really, really large. And then eventually when it dies or you bounce it or whatever, you get to drain your opponent essentially. Not drain, but like lower their life total. It can be a finisher. So it's a generator for the theme of the deck, and it's a payoff for the deck. So we love to see those. Next, we have another legendary creature, the Gaffer. It's a white creature, 2 and a white, 2/3 legendary creature, halfling peasant. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, draw a card. So this is going to be one of the strongest cards in the entire deck. It is your main card draw engine that you're going to be super excited about each time it manages to stick on the battlefield, because gaining 3 or more life per turn means you can draw a card on your end step, but also your opponent's end step. So if it's a 4-player game, each turn cycle, you can draw up to 4 cards per turn cycle, which is very good. Gaining 3 or more life sounds like a daunting task on every single turn, but guess what? Your food tokens, they crack for 3 life. So with food tokens on the battlefield, maybe Sam on the battlefield, you can very easily turn all those food tokens into card draw, which is just, it's just very good. I just like it a lot. Can you see can you tell I like this deck a lot? I like this deck a lot. All right, moving on. Treebeard, Gracious Host. This is a Selesnya legendary creature. 2, a green and a white. For a 0/5, legendary creature Treefolk, trample ward 2. When Treebeard enters the battlefield, create 2 food tokens. Whenever you gain life, you put that many +1/+1 counters on target halfling or Treefolk. So this card actually supports Treefolk a little bit. I don't think you would be putting it in a Treefolk deck that much, maybe like because it is a 0/5, so it kind of fits in Doran and Treefolk themes, but it makes food tokens number 1, so fits in the food theme, and it's another life gain payoff. It just turns your life gain into buff for your halflings and treefolk, for your creatures. So it turns your life gain into a finisher. We love to see it. It's good. It has ward as well. It's lovely. I love it. Next, we have yet another legendary creature. This set is full of legendary. Legendary is the primary theme of the set. Gwahir, Greatest of the Eagles. It's a 5-mana white 5/5 legendary creature, Bird Noble, with flying. And whenever it attacks, target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn, so it gives something evasion. At the beginning of each end step, if you gain 3 or more life this turn, create a 3/3 white bird creature token with flying. And whenever this creature attacks, target attacking creature gains flying until end of turn. So yet another payoff for the life gain, for the food. Just like the Gaffer, you could be making up to 4 bird tokens, 3/3 bird tokens with flying that give your stuff evasion every single turn cycle if you have a lot of food and you have the mana to activate them. So it can quickly get out of hand, and these are exactly the type of cards you want to be seeing in a food deck, because the food deck doesn't really do that much by itself. Food tokens don't really do that much by itself. Life gain doesn't do that much by itself. But these payoffs really make all of the things work. All right, next we have Motivated Pony. This is a 5-mana green 3/3 creature horse with trample and haste, and whenever it attacks, attacking creatures get +1/+1 until end of turn. If a food entered the battlefield under your control this turn, untap those creatures and they get an additional +2/+2 until end of turn. Oh my goodness. All right, so just like it's a hasty, tramply overrun that can potentially give all your creatures +2/+3 and untap them, like pseudo vigilance. Woo. Yeah, that's good. That's good. We like it. I love this deck. All right, moving on. We have Hithlane Rope. It's a 2-mana artifact. It says it can't be sacrificed. You pay 1 mana and tap it, search your library for a basic land card, put it onto the battlefield tap, then shuffle the player to your right gains control of Hithlane Rope. And then you can pay 2 mana, tap it, and draw a card. The player to your right gains control of Hithlane Rope. So this is a cool, unbreakable rope. I think it was one of the gifts that Galadriel gave to the Fellowship, and they kind of used it to tie stuff. Or I guess to repel down stuff, or repel up stuff. I don't know. Anyway, correct me if I'm wrong. I'm half remembering stuff. But this is a cool, like, group hug style card, right? You can't sacrifice it, so you can't be a party foul. This is a group hug party pyre style card. I love this. Not necessarily for this deck. Like, it's fine for this deck. It's probably on the weaker end, honestly, for this deck. But I really like it in Zedru. Like, I want to give my stuff away, so this is just like an auto include in Zedru. But I mean, that's beside the point. We're focusing on the Precon. We'll move on to Field Tested Frying Pan. Oh my god, I love the flavor of this set. This is a 3-mana white artifact equipment. When Field Tested Frying Pan enters the battlefield, create a food token, then create a 1/1 white halfling creature token and attach Field Tested Frying Pan to it. So this is Sam pulling out the pan, I think, to hit Smeagol. Equipped creature has, whenever you gain life, this creature goes +X until end of turn, where X is the amount of life you gain. So this is just a life gain payoff equipment that just is so cute and full of loveliness. I think it would also be good in Nahiri, because it's a 3-drop that enters the battlefield with a halfling, and it makes a token, so that it even comes with a way to buff your creature as well. By itself. But yeah, this card's solid. Of Herbs and Stewed Rabbit. This is a 3-mana saga. It has 3 chapters. So chapter 1, you put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature, create a food token. Chapter 2, draw a card, create a food token. And then finally, chapter 3, create a 1/1 white halfling creature for each food you control. So all by itself, it's putting a counter on something, it's making 2 food tokens, it's drawing you cards, and then making you at least 2 halfling creature tokens if you didn't sacrifice the foods that it made earlier. This is another it's nice. I don't know what else to say. All these cards are they fit so well. It was like they were made for this deck. But I love the flavor. It's so great. Anyway, moving on. Assemble the Entmoot. It is a 4-mana green enchantment. Creatures you control have reach. Sacrifice, assemble the Entmoot, create 3 tapped XX green treefolk creature tokens, where X is the amount of life you gained this turn. Put a reach counter on each of them. So if you gain a lot of life on a turn, let's say 15 or more, boom, you sacrifice the Entmoot, you put like 15, you put 3 15 green treefolk tokens with reach onto the battlefield. It gives your opponent a turn to deal with this, unless you're like gaining a lot of life at instant speed, sacrifices at the end step before your turn, untap of them. But we love efficiency, and they're big tokens, so you can populate them or stuff in other decks. But yeah, it's fun. I like this card. So those are all 20 of the brand new exclusive cards that you're going to find only in this pre-constructed deck. The rest of the deck is full of reprints. Some of them are really, really spicy ones that I'm super excited about. But every single one of them feature brand new Lord of the Rings artwork. So the entire deck is a Lord of the Rings deck, from the new cards to the reprints. It's all Lord of the Rings, so it's fully immersive, it's fully thematic, and I absolutely love it. So let's go through all of them. So first we've got Birds of Paradise. It's a format all-star. It's a high-value reprint, and it's got a bird and Rivendell in the background. Beautiful. We've got Essence Warden. It gains life when creatures are entering the battlefield. It depicts an elf and I think some hobbits. We've got Prosperous Innkeeper, an innkeeper halfling hobbit. Beautiful. Shire Sheriff. This is from the main set. So this is the standard legal card that has been reprinted in the Precon deck. We've got Mentor of the Meek featuring new art, so we can draw some cards off our halflings and whatnot, or hobbits. We have Rosy Cotton of South Lane, which was reprinted from the main set. We've got Savvy Hunter, makes a food token. We've got Tireless Provisioner, brand new art, can make food or a treasure token. Suddenly the food side, I've never really used the food side on Tireless Provisioner, to be honest. I've always used it for treasure, but this is the one deck where I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to make the food more often than not, I think. Now, I'd probably make the treasure most of the time, but the food is really nice. Next, we've got Butterbur. This is from the main set. Mirkwood Bats, also from the main set. Landreval, Horizon Witness, also from the main set. Eagles of the North, also from the main set. Butterbur is kind of nice in case we don't have any food tokens on the battlefield for whatever reason. And Mirkwood Bats is probably the best card of the 4 over here, just because whenever we're sacrificing a food token, which we'll hopefully be doing often, we get to drain our opponents at the same time. Then we've got Generous Ent. It makes a food token when it enters the battlefield. It cycles. It smooths out draw. Great Oak Guardian. We don't have the new art for it yet, so just pretend that there's Lord of the Rings art. Oops-a-daisy there. Then we have Orchard Strider. Again, enters the battlefield with food. It can land cycle, so it's like a top-end finisher when you need it. It makes food when you need it, but also if you're missing your land drops early or whatever, you can just cycle it away. Woodfall Primus. Always beautiful in Commander. It used to be like a staple back in the day. Played a lot less these days, but still always good. New art. We have new art Swords of Plowshares, format all-star. Most white decks are still run it every single time. Sylvan Offering. I absolutely love this card. It puts so much creature value onto the battlefield. Farseek, Go for the Throat. All great cards. Night's Whisper. Night's Whisper is, I think it was a couple of dollars up until this point. It desperately needed a reprint, so it's always nice to see it. Revive the Shire. It's a new card from the standard set, and it makes a food token. Anguished Unmaking. This is a huge one. This card has been creeping up in price lately, and it's always really nice to see. Basically, one of the very best, I think, targeted removal in the entire format. I would put it up like in the top 5 targeted removal in the format. And it's nice to see a reprint here. Crypt Incursion, you always got to have a little bit of graveyard hate, right? Like that card is not particularly great in most decks, but it is very good in a life gain deck. You gain 3 life for each each creature card exiled from target player's graveyard. So if somebody had like 5 creatures in their graveyard and you exile it at instant speed, you gain 15 life. That's going to be pretty nice for all those life gain payoff cards. Moving on, we have Cultivate. You always love Cultivate. Mortify. All right, that's fine. Toxic Deluge. Now that is a high value reprint. I think it was like $20 beforehand. So this is very huge. This is probably the highest value reprint in the entire deck, and it is one of the best board wipes in the entire format. Absolutely love to see it. Harmonize. Everybody loves a Harmonize. Fell the Mighty, very nice in a deck that is focusing on hobbits and stuff. They have pretty small powers, so this is usually going to be an asymmetrical board wipe. Also, the Ents, the tree folk, usually have high toughness but low power, so that works very well. Fumigate, great way to gain life and fit the theme. Dust to Dawn works very well, the same reason why Fell the Mighty works very well. Arcane Signet, format all-star. Chromatic Lantern, arguably overrated. Some people will say overrated. I still like it because it makes me not have to think too much in multicolor decks what lands I'm tapping. So brain thinky hurts sometimes, and I like Chromatic Lantern for that. Commander's Sphere being a Palantir, I think, or the Palantiri, I don't know how to say it properly, is very cool. Pristine Talisman, at least it has nice art. Trading Post, I don't really like it that much. Well of Lost Dreams is going to be absolutely sick in any life gain deck. It turns all that life gain into card draw very efficiently. I love it. Dawn of Hope, I'm kind of down on because it's not as efficient. Paying 2 life to gain 1 card, not as great, but it's fine. Call for Unity, very cool. Sanguine Bond, that's pretty huge. Like you're gaining a lot of life. You're gaining up to 10 or more life in a single turn. You could turn that into a win condition with Sanguine Bond. That's really awesome to see. And then we have a bunch of lands. All of the lands have Lord of the Rings art, which is, you just love to see it. A lot of the Shire, Access Tunnel, Ash Barrens, Brushlands, always nice to see. Canopy Vista, always nice to see. Command Tower, Evolving Wilds, Exotic Orchard, Fortified Village, Ghost Quarter, Grey Pelt Refuge, Isolated Chapel. I think Isolated Chapel, check lands are going up a little bit in price. Murmuring Bosque is not that expensive, but I think it's criminally underrated. It's also going to enter the battlefield untapped more often than not because you have Tree Folk in this deck, which is really nice to see. Necroblossom Snarl, some people hate it. I'm very ambivalent about it. Path of Ancestry, always very nice. Rogue's Passage, Sandstorm Citadel, Scattered Groves, Scoured Barrens, Shine Shadow Snarl, Shire Terrace. These are all they're all fine. You know, I kind of wish most of the mana fixing lands would just enter untap these days. I don't really like that we're still dealing with snarls and tap lands and whatever. At least the Scoured Barrens, they gain you a life, so it fits the theme. You get a little bit of additional synergy. But I feel we've moved on in 2023 from just putting a bunch of tap lands in our precons. I would like to just see stuff like more check lands and pain lands and stuff like that as a general rule of thumb. So that's my minor criticism. I'm allowed one per video. I love Woodland Cemetery though. More of those. I like those. I like Sun Petal Grove. More of those. I love check lands. Check lands, battle bond lands, pain lands. I think all of those should always show up in precon decks. And I like to see them here, and I love seeing them with sweet new art. So those are all the cards from Food and Fellowship. It's an entire deck full of brand new Lord of the Rings artwork and 20 cards that are exclusive to this deck. I am beyond the moon in my hype for this. As you could tell, this is my favorite deck out of all of them, but I love all of these decks. They're super cool. I'm so excited to get my hand on it. I just love it so much. All right, so that's it for this video. We'll be back tomorrow with another deck preview. I'm going to be covering the next 3 very, very soon, so be sure to like and subscribe to not miss those. They're all super, super cool, and I can't wait to cover them all. So until next time, friends, see ya!